and has become a representational figurehead for the Ukrainian resistance to the Russian invasion of the Crimea. You might have seen images of him in court behind a plexiglass screen. That's how he's most often pictured now. What often happens in this festival, I think, is that the writers, when they get the overwhelming context and information about these people's lives, try so hard to get past the notion that in our minds, other people, this is the problem with other minds, other people, is it real? How real is it? And think through that in a way that makes one confront something that isn't oneself, Do I think about Oleg Sentsov and think, what if that happened to me? Or do I think about ideas around what he represents? Because maybe that's what his gesture is supposed to be about. So in this case, and when I talked about Oleg before, the thing that I often think about when I think of Oleg is the notion of unnecessary resistance. And what I mean by that is, as a characteristic in human beings, it's both good and bad, I think. The idea that when you're confronted with bullies, do you stay quiet, or do you find it within yourself to make sure that you rebel against them? This is like a personality trait, right? Is that a form of bravery? The notion that you're sitting in a courtroom, say, that's something that we can't really imagine, because we're not going to get arrested for what we do in terms of writing. And someone essentially gives you an opportunity to just say you're sorry. And if you do that, if you're willing to just say in front of an audience, knowing, of course, that people back home, your family, desperately want you to do so, no one is going to judge you for just saying, listen, you're right, whatever you say is true. Please don't sentence me to 20 years in a maximum security prison in Siberia. I'll do anything you say. You can't hold that against me, okay? History is full of moments like this where people are faced with decisions that represent something a lot bigger than they themselves are. And what really pains me when I think about Oleg Sentsov, if I'm completely honest, is the notion that if I was faced with that same decision, I know I definitely would say whatever they wanted me to. There is absolutely no way I would sit in a plexiglass dock facing a Russian judge and say, not only do I resist the things that you're saying, but I'm going to take the piss out of you on national television so you double my sentence. I know, as someone who thinks I'm more courageous than a lot of the people I work down the street, because we're in Greenwich, that maybe there is a part of me that is strong enough to consider it. When they first arrest me, maybe I would think, you know what? I'm an artist, I'm a filmmaker. Artists in history have played an important role of rebellion, of resistance. I am going to, in court, when they finally put the TV cameras on me, tell them to stick it up their backsides, children in the room. And then I'd have my first night in prison. And the next day I would wake up and I'd think, get hold of yourself. Steve, you're scared. You feel death coming in. And you think, oh my God, this prison is so much nicer than the maximum security prison they'll probably send me to in Siberia. This prison's in Moscow. I'm on TV right now. You go to sleep again, you maybe have a bit of a cry, you get hold of yourself, you wake up the next day. And what you think about, I think, And maybe I'm imagining too much. Maybe this, when I try and deny it, is why I am a writer, because I think too much. And it occurs to me what actually might happen on the second day is I think, you know what, everyone's talking about me now. There's going to be an empty chair at the Sakharov Prize they're going to give me in Brussels. And maybe for the next 6 months, people in the Ukraine will remember what I did, resisting, taking the piss out of them, showing the spirit of the Ukrainian people. But what about in 1 year's time? And what about in 5 years' time? Do you think anyone, anywhere in the world, is going to be thinking about me? And all I have to say is, I'm sorry, you're right, Crimea is Russian. And you'll let me go home. No one will blame me, no one will judge me. What I'll be left with is a future. My future, because I live in my mind. I don't live in other people's mind. I'm not a people's. I'm a person. I actually live. Is it worth sacrificing your life for an idea? Well, I'm thoughtful. For me personally, where I'm from, in England, I would never sacrifice my life for England. England? I don't have England. That's what I'm thinking of. And that's why it's so impressive. What Oleg has done. Because they did sentence him to 20 years in Siberian prison. Where he is now. Thank you very much.